Hi, I'm Irene Romero, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. We really appreciate your support and your interest in becoming involved in Freedom Schools as a volunteer. So this video is going to just basically talk about a little bit of background information, what Freedom School is all about, and different ways that you can get involved as a volunteer. I want to start off with some background information. So our mission as an organization is to engage, educate, and empower children to succeed in school and in life through quality educational enrichment programs. And what you should know about what we do is that children who are in low-income families hear 30 million fewer words than children in middle-income families by the time they're 3 years old. So right off the bat, there is a disadvantage for children who are growing up in households with limited income. And then by the time that they reach the end of 4th grade, students in poverty are 2 years behind their wealthier peers. And by the time they reach 8th grade, they're 3 years behind. And by the time they reach 12th grade, they're 4 years behind the academic achievement of their wealthier peers. And this discrepancy is seen across the board, not only in North Carolina, but across the board, and it is referred to as the achievement gap. And you may be wondering why this exists. Well, the number one contributing factor to the achievement gap is summer learning loss. And what I mean by summer learning loss is that typically students in poverty slide behind 2 to 3 months worth of the learning that they had accumulated over the school year. They lose a little bit every summer because they don't have access to as many enriching opportunities. And so summer learning loss accounts for 2/3 of the achievement gap. And that's why we, Freedom School Partners as an organization, have chosen to target this area in order to create a level playing field for children. One thing that we like to remind ourselves and others is that all children have the potential to succeed, but not every child has the opportunity. And so by giving all children access, or as many as we possibly can, access to an enriching summer of learning, we're helping create opportunity for them as well. In Charlotte alone, over 78,000 children fall into the low-income category, and only 10% of them have access to any kind of summer programming at all. So what difference does Freedom School really make? Well, the numbers speak for themselves. After 4 years of gathering data, we've seen consistently that 90% of Freedom School scholars, that means the participants in our program, do not experience that summer slide. 90% of them either maintain or gain. And many of the students in our program are actually jumping ahead more than a year's worth in their reading ability, just over the 6 weeks of the Freedom School program. So we can see that what we're doing really is working. All right, so how does it work? You can see in this map that I have up here, this is a map of the city of Charlotte, and each colorful dot represents a location of Freedom School in the year 2015. So all of those little dots are a different site, a Freedom School site, where the Freedom School summer program will be taking place. And we do this in collaboration with community partners to provide the Children's Defense Fund Freedom School summer program to children who most need and can least afford summer programming. This year we're going to be serving a total of 1,200 children in grades kindergarten to 8th grade across these 19 different locations. So when I refer to a community partner, many times this is a faith-based organization, or it may be a community, or even we have corporations who are partners, and many individuals make our work possible through their gifts as well. So I'm often asked, how are children selected to be a part of Freedom School? And this is kind of how it works. For any particular site, the community partner determines which group of children it is that they are trying to serve. So I'll use the example of Christ Lutheran Church, which is this yellow dot over here. They want to serve the students from McClintock Middle School. And so Christ Lutheran is working hard getting the volunteers and the fundraising and everything and the space to make sure that they have a wonderful site. And our staff communicates with McClintock Middle School, and we work together because the school staff really knows which of their students could most benefit from Freedom School, and so they help to enroll the participants in the program. And that's the way that it works at all of our sites, and each site is a little bit different because the community partners at each site are a little bit different. But the same daily structure is the same at every site, and we use the same curriculum at every site, which is developed by the Children's Defense Fund. Okay, so why does Freedom School work? Well, I want to talk to you about the three main things that we are trying to provide for children, make sure that children are getting through their Freedom School experience. Number one is literacy skills. We focus a lot on reading, and we really want to help children fall in love with reading so that it's not just a task, but really it's a joy for them, and it's something that they'll continue to do on their own. And clearly, that strategy has been successful, as you can see that 90% of our scholars are at least maintaining, and over 60% are moving ahead in their reading ability over the summer. The second thing that we're really focusing on is social emotional skills. These are the skills that are equally important to life success as academic sort of skills. And we want to make sure that all of our scholars have all of their needs met. Not just for their brain, but also for their emotional needs, their psychological needs, their physical well-being. And that brings us to number three, which is we want to provide a community that believes in scholars. At Freedom School, we like to say that we believe in children so that children will believe in themselves, and we really want to make sure that every child has that kind of supportive community around them. This schedule gives an outline of the Freedom School day, and I'm going to go over it just quickly so that you have an idea of what Freedom School looks like in an average day. As a volunteer, you probably won't be present from 8 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the program ends, but this way you'll know what they've been doing all day, and you'll have an idea of that context. So at 8 o'clock is when scholars arrive to their Freedom School site. They come on a bus, and then from 8 to 8:30 they eat breakfast together. At 8:30 we have Harambe, which is a 30-minute high-energy pep rally celebrating learning and reading. And so there's lots of singing and dancing, and it's really fun. And also there's a guest reader every morning who is a volunteer from the community who comes in and reads a children's book aloud for about 10 minutes. And that's a way for children to see all different members of their community and see that reading is important to all kinds of adults. And from 9 o'clock to 11:30, all of the scholars, which is what we call the participants in the Freedom School program, split off into their classes. So a class has 10 scholars and one servant leader intern, which is the college student that's like the camp counselor, role model, mentor for that group of 10 scholars all summer long. So they're going to break out into their classes of 10, and they're divided by age groups. Level 1 is kindergarten to 2nd grade, level 2 is 3rd to 5th grade, and level 3 is 6th to 8th grade. And they spend the morning reading these really fun books that have been carefully selected. They're part of the curriculum of the Children's Defense Fund Freedom Schools program. And they have these really positive themes about individuals who made a difference in their own lives and in their communities. And they're specially chosen to be relevant and interesting to the children in our program. So after they're doing that, and it's not like a regular classroom situation, they might be seated in a reading circle on the floor, they might be acting out the book. We'll see some images of this later in the slideshow. But after they've been doing that for 2.5 hours, They have 15 minutes to drop everything and read. That's what we mean by deer time. And they can just free read whatever book that they want from those that are available in the classroom for a few minutes. Then we break for lunch. Everybody comes together as a big group for lunch. And when lunch is over, we split off by age groups again. And we go on field trips, or we have a volunteer come in and lead an on-site activity. Or we, on Fridays, we are preparing for the very last day of Freedom School, which is called Finale. So we're prepping like a special presentation that we're going to do on the last day. So every class goes on about 2 field trips a week and has 2 volunteer-led on-site activities a week. And then that wraps up around 2:45, and the last 15 minutes of the day, we have snack and the announcements before we get on the bus and go home at 3. All right. So I want to talk a little bit more about the first point of kind of the backbone of what Freedom School is. And this is literacy skills. So literacy really is a gateway skill that leads to success in school and beyond. If you teach a child to read, a child will be able to read to learn for themselves for the rest of their lives. And so we really focus on reading and making it fun. And we do this in Harambe through the cheers and the chants and the getting hype about reading and having a guest reader come in. We do this a lot through the integrated reading curriculum time, which is that morning 2.5 hours when we're in the classroom. And you can see some images here of us reading together in a circle, sitting on the floor, or sitting at a table. We try to make it really comfortable in a fun environment. And we also, the books that we are reading during the integrated reading curriculum go home with the scholars at the end of the week, so we're helping them to build a home library as well. And that's pretty much, that's the bulk of how we incorporate literacy into everyday Freedom School. Here's a picture of reading with an intern during IRC. All right, and the second sort of pillar of Freedom School is social emotional skills. Research is showing, increasingly so as more and more studies are done on this, that social emotional skills are equally important to academic and life success, as are things like your reading scores and your math scores. So things like perseverance, optimism, self-esteem, self-awareness, self-control, grit, all of these qualities are really important to success in life. And we want to help children to develop these qualities in themselves. And so everything that we do in Freedom School really revolves around developing these social emotional skills. From trying new things on our field trips, we're trying to broaden horizons and help children to imagine a future for themselves and to think about more things to make their world a bigger place. That's why we go as many places as we can over the 6 weeks of Freedom School. Every morning in Harambe, we sing our motivational song, Something Inside So Strong, that talks about how there's something strong enough in each one of us to overcome the obstacles of that day. In the integrated reading curriculum, the books that we're reading are talking about individuals who overcome obstacles, and many times they are the most unlikely heroes, or they are children who made a difference in their community. And the weekly themes of our curriculum revolve around the sentence, I can make a difference. So the first week of Freedom School, the books that we're reading and the activities we're doing are revolving around the theme, I can make a difference in myself. And the second week, we're talking about, I can make a difference in my family. The third week, the theme is, I can make a difference in my community, and so on and so forth. We also have a positive way of resolving conflicts, of having an attitude of interest and enthusiasm about the different activities we do together, and this is called the Freedom School Way. And so, as you're volunteering, you might overhear an intern say to a scholar, you know, that's not the Freedom School Way, or that is the Freedom School way, and now you know what they mean. They're just referring to a positive way of confronting everything that we do. And so if someone is not doing something in the Freedom School way, we snap it out. We snap out the negative energy so that we don't take it out in a negative way. So if you hear any of those things while you're volunteering, you'll know what that means. And finally, but not at all least, this is probably the most important piece, is role models. So the staff that are with the scholars all day long, those servant leader interns and the site coordinators, which we'll talk about in more detail in just a second, and also volunteers like yourself who come in are all providing these positive role models of adults who know how to work together, who are cooperating, who care about children, who want to be advocates for children. And those role models are so powerful, and so we thank you for participating in that way. Alright, so in this photo we can see an example of an on-site activity that's led by a volunteer. These on-site activities happen in the afternoon. As I mentioned earlier, we either go on a field trip or we have an on-site activity. And so here a volunteer has brought in ingredients and is showing a class how to make cookies. And it can be that simple. But even an activity as simple as making cookies is helping broaden scholars' horizons. They're learning something new, and they're doing it with new people in their lives. And so this is something for you to consider as we talk about different ways to volunteer. If you have a skill or an interest that you would like to bring in and share with scholars, this can be a great way to expand their horizons. And then this photo is from a field trip. So on field trips, we go to the zoo, we might go, or a petting farm, or we go to pools, we go to science museums, history museums, art museums, we get outside, we go to parks, we go to Cane Creek Park for a whole day one day. We have all kinds of enriching field trips that we go on. With the older scholars, we try to take them to some different workplaces so that they can see and have a hands-on experience with different careers. And so we are really trying to help expand scholars' ideas of the world around them and imagining their own futures. And this is part of building their social and emotional skills as well. All right. Finally, we're going to talk about the importance of community. And we're going to talk about this. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we involve families and parents and volunteers, and then I'll talk a little bit more in depth about our staff as well. So we really want to surround scholars with a community that supports them and communicates to them that they are important, that they have potential, and that we believe in their ability to succeed. And we believe that this is so important to the well-being of children and to the development of their futures as well. So we really want to invite the whole family of scholars to participate. And one way that we do this during the summer is we have 3 parent meetings at each site over the course of the summer, and we invite parents to come and bring all the siblings, and we eat a meal together, and then there's a time for parents to meet with the Freedom School staff and to converse, get to know one another, find out what their child has been doing in Freedom School all summer. And we also have a parent meeting when we bring in a special speaker to speak on a topic that we think will be interesting to parents. We also try to enroll families together, and so we really do our best to enroll all siblings together who are in the age range that is included in Freedom School. We ask parents to participate during 9 hours. So while Freedom School is free to families with a $35 enrollment fee per family, but then the rest of the program is free, we ask them to participate as is their way of contributing instead. And so this can be by washing dirty t-shirts, it can be by volunteering, helping serve breakfast, going on a field trip, or if they come to all 3 parent meetings, that counts as their 9 hours of participation. And then you are so important. We need you to come, and we need you to be a part of this work as well. Because every volunteer who comes and every person who takes time out of their day to spend time with our scholars communicates to them how important they are. And the more we build this network of community around our scholars, the more empowered they will be to venture forth and to succeed in their lives. And now I want to talk a little bit more in depth about our staff as well. We have servant leader interns and site coordinators, and as you can see in these photos, they all wear heather gray t-shirts. So when you're volunteering, look for the people in the gray t-shirts, and on the back of their t-shirts it says staff as well, so you can't miss them, and you'll be able to tell who they are. Servant leader interns are college students who are currently enrolled or they just graduated like a month ago, and they this is their summer job. They've gone through 90 hours of training before Freedom School started, and they're passionate about serving children and advocating for them. And we're really proud of our servant leader interns. It can be a hard job to work with children all summer long, but they do a really great job, and we appreciate the energy that they bring to the program as well. The site coordinator is the manager of every site. So there's one servant leader intern for every class of 10 scholars, and they have the same class all summer long. They get to be really close. And then at every site there's just one site coordinator. The site coordinator, like I said, is like the manager of the site. So if you would imagine a Freedom School being like a regular school, the servant leader interns would be like the teachers, and the site coordinator would be like the principal of the school. Site coordinators are usually educators, and so they have experience. They can really be helpful mentors to the servant leader interns, and we love them too. All right. So now we've come to the part where we can talk about what you can do and what difference you can make. Many times volunteers like you you're watching this video because you care and you really want to make a difference. And so you may go on a field trip and you may hold a child's hand and you might tie their shoe, but at the end of the day you feel like, well, did I really do much? I feel like I didn't really help that much. And what I have to remind volunteers is that your presence is so important, more than you really know. And so the biggest thing that you can do as a volunteer in Freedom School is to just be present, to take the time to listen to a child, to want to spend time with them out of your busy life, to empower them with kind words and with your attention to show them that they're valuable and important. That is more meaningful than you really know. Research shows that supportive, responsive relationships with caring adults protects children from the effects of toxic stress, such as the chronic stress of poverty. And so whether or not you can see something happen on the outside, on the inside, when you're there for a child, you really are helping protect them in their neurological and physiological development, so that although their situation and life may not immediately change, they're not suffering the same developmental consequences as a child who doesn't have a community that is supporting them. And so I really can't overemphasize how important your presence is, and forming a relationship with a child is really what makes a powerful difference in their life. So now I want to tell you a little bit about what to expect as a volunteer in Freedom School. Well, you already know the important thing to look for the people in the gray shirts. Those are our staff. And you also, if you've ever worked with children before, then you know that as in any context when you're working with kids, patience and flexibility are really key. And so we do our absolute best to stay on schedule and we pack the Freedom School day full of different activities. We don't really have downtime. We jump from our reading curriculum to lunch to jump on a bus, we're going to the Discovery Place or whatever it is for that day. But, you know, life happens, and especially when there's 50 children involved, sometimes something happens and we're running 10 minutes late. And so we ask you to just be understanding of that and to be patient with that, and know that we're doing our absolute best to stay on our targeted schedule and to meet you where we say we're going to meet you when we're going to meet you. And another thing that's important is to understand the children that you are serving, and so you want to be patient and understanding of the context where our scholars may be coming from. They may have had a rough day or a rough week, but just to be kind and patient with them. And we have more resources available that you can take a look at to learn a little bit more about the relationship between poverty and education and all of those sorts of things. We encourage you to communicate with the site coordinator at the site where you're going to volunteer. So most likely, if you haven't yet, you will be in communication with a volunteer coordinator at the specific site where you want to volunteer. And if you're not sure which site you want to volunteer at, just give us a call and we'll help you figure it out and get connected. So every site has sort of at least one person who's in volunteer leadership at that site. And they're helping organize and put on the calendar the different people who are going to be going on the different field trips, or who are going to be leading an on-site activity on the days when they need someone to lead an on-site activity. And so they would like to talk to you and hear what kind of activities you're interested in doing. And they may have additional needs as well, like need some volunteers to help at one of those parent meetings, or need some volunteers to help set up classrooms before Freedom School starts, those kinds of things. So we'll help you get connected to the right person for the site of your interest, and they will be able to schedule you for the specific days that you're both interested in and available for. And they will also give you the name and contact information for the site coordinator. The site coordinator is for sure going to be on site when you go to volunteer. And so if you have any last minute needs or something come up, they're the person to call to let them know. And a staff member is going to meet you when you arrive. They do their absolute best to come and meet you at the entrance of the site when you arrive. We also have signs up that say Freedom School. We try to use bright colors so that you can easily find which door to go in, and we put arrows pointing to the site coordinator's office so that you can sign in when you arrive on site. Or if you're going to meet us at a field trip destination and you're going to drive straight there, then you'll know what color t-shirts to look for. So just look for 30 kids all wearing the same color t-shirt, and you should be able to find us that way. If you have any concerns during your volunteer time, there's always going to be a staff person there. We use volunteers as a support to staff. You're really enriching the experience, but you're a support to staff. You're never going to be replacing them. And so we're never going to leave you alone with a group of scholars. You're not the substitute teacher. You're there to be an assistant, so to speak, to the staff. And so we ask you to keep that in mind as well, even if you're volunteering as part of a group, to keep in mind that the way you can be most helpful is by supporting our staff, and feel free to ask them, you know, is there anything I can do? Is there anything I can do to be helpful? And they'll be able to let you know. If you're ever at a loss of what to do right now, just ask the person in the gray shirt and they'll tell you something that you could do. So. And then finally, and most importantly, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for giving of your time, your energy, and your talents to serve children in our community and to really make a difference. We believe that together we truly can make a difference in the lives of many, many children. Thank you.